Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to a different kind of video. This is about Sir Christopher Frayling's new book, which is a beauty. It's Once Upon a Time in the West, Shooting a Masterpiece, and it's an absolutely gorgeous piece of work. Christopher Frayling is one of my favourite film writers and supplier of film commentaries. He is a Sergio Leone expert and does commentaries on most, if not all, of Leone's films, and through him I learned a lot about Leone. He also has a huge collection of spaghetti western posters and Leone memorabilia. Once Upon a Time in the West is my favourite western, and in my opinion the greatest western ever made, and it's one of the films that I give people 4 or 5 film titles for my favourite film of all time, but it certainly would be in the discussion. I always loved Good, the Bad and Ugly, and still do. Good, the Bad and Ugly is still probably my top 10, because you have to remember Once Upon a Time in the West wasn't really available, certainly when I was growing up, because the proper cut of the film wasn't really redistributed until maybe the early to mid 90s. Once Upon a Time in the West was never on, certainly in the UK, it was never on UK TV. It was always the Dollars trilogy, and primarily Good, the Bad and Ugly. I mean, I've probably seen the Good and the Bad and Ugly probably about 50 times, and I'd seen it a whole bunch of times and absolutely loved it before I ever saw Once Upon a Time in the West. Because I remember the BBC Two put on a western series, and it was going to be Once Upon a Time in the West. Because I remember reading in film books about how amazing the opening was, and I was like so excited to finally see it. And then when I saw it, it just absolutely blew me away. The fact that he made a film that's even better than The Good, the Bad and Ugly, which, like I said, at the time was my favourite western and one of my favourite films, and Leone outdid it. Obviously, as most of you know, he spent a summer in a villa with Bertolucci and Dario Argento, and they kind of worked on a script. They watched lots of westerns. So he took elements from High Noon and Shane and The Searchers and many others, and made a film that's better than them all, and probably better than them all combined. It's like 165 minutes, which strangely enough is roughly the length of a few Tarantino films. Tarantino actually there's a 27-page foreword by Tarantino, who cites Leone as his favourite director, even though he hasn't seemed to have learned how to make a long film actually interesting for the whole length of the film. As most Tarantino films, there's a really good 90-minute film in there somewhere with a 2.5-hour film. This book is absolutely gorgeous. Did you bring a horse for me? Looks like we're shy one horse. You brought two too many. Like I said, the foreword is by Tarantino. and he pretty much cites his influences by the film, and essentially all the bits he homaged. I'll just show you some of the pictures, which are just absolutely beautiful. There's Leone with Charlie Bronson. So this has a foreword, and then it goes through the technical people, the director, the story, citations of American westerns within Once Upon a Time in the West. Then you have the screenplay, the cinematography, the production design, the production manager, the composer, obviously Ennio Morricone, in my opinion the greatest composer of the 20th century, not just film. Also Leone and Morricone have this beautiful relationship that is just beyond a joke. And then we have the actors. Then we actually have the filming of Once Upon a Time in the West day by day. The main cut sequences, because again, when this first came out in 1968, Leone was made to make cuts and more cuts and more cuts, so I think it was down to, it might have been actually 90 minutes or something. So the plot didn't make any sense, and it bombed at the box office because nobody understood what the hell was going on. And then it's only when it actually got released in its proper form, people went, holy shit, this is perfect. Or maybe that's just me. There's also tributes by John Carpenter, Joe Dante, John Milius and Martin Scorsese. There's details about the final sequence in the script. There's filmography, acknowledgements, bibliography and sources of quotations. Look at that! I mean, why is Once Upon a Time in the West just about my favourite film of all time? Apart from the music, apart from Leone's compositions, apart from the performances, apart from the story, apart from just the great one-liners, I don't really know. Apart from the amazing opening, apart from the fact that it takes 45 minutes before the actual story starts. I mean, it should be played in museums and art galleries. Even get a wee bit of the triangle from The Good, the Bad and Ugly. Henry Fonda, who at the time wasn't really playing baddies, and also the famous anecdote about Henry Fonda turning up with black contact lenses and a moustache, you know, like a proper villain, and Leone said, get rid of it all, I want Henry Fonda's blue eyes and clean shaven. So when that camera pans round on that scene, people will go, Jesus Christ, it's Henry Fonda. Look at that image. Look at that image. It's like some filmmakers should just retire after looking at that image. Just go home and stop making films anymore. Yeah, I just wanted to pretty much gush about this book and Christopher Frayling in general, because he's a very lovely man. His commentaries are always excellent. I mean, look at that image. That's... oh. It's quite moving. So I would highly recommend picking this up if you like Once Upon a Time in the West. It's one of those films, it is an amazing achievement to do, well, as far as I'm concerned, a 165-minute film which doesn't seem that long. Same with Good, the Bad and Ugly, it doesn't seem that long. It's hard to do. I mean, I love Lawrence of Arabia, but Lawrence of Arabia doesn't really need to be 4 hours long. Whereas Once Upon a Time in the West needs to be 165 minutes. It's just the relationships between Henry Fonda and Charles Bronson, between Charles Bronson and Jason Robards, between Jason Robards and Claudia Cardinale, who at times looks as though she's speaking perfect English, and at other times it's obvious she's dubbed. It's a monumental film, literally shot in Monument Valley. There's like posters. Spiel mir das Lied von Tod. The reveal of why Charles Bronson's carrying a harmonica is just beautiful. And there's Henry Fonda and Sergio Leone together. Oh. Leone didn't really speak that great English, so he would act out what he wanted. And there's another beautiful picture, Sergio Leone and Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda sitting in deck chairs. What a world. So this book is just gorgeous. There's even a picture of Sergio Leone on a horse. Where else can you see pictures of Sergio Leone on a horse, I ask you? You might not want to see pictures of Sergio Leone on a horse, but never mind. Yeah, so this is just a short gushing video about Once Upon a Time in the West, and really an open thank you to Christopher Frayling, if he happens to be watching, to say thank you very much on your work with Sergio Leone. Yeah, because it's now, it's hard to believe, but it's now 51 years old. Once Upon a Time in the West is now 51 years old. And it's still is awesome, strangely enough. So this has a lot of reading in it, as well as beautiful images. And it also has like storyboard stuff. And if I just flick to the actual shooting, it's got stuff about the costumes. Sorry, just have to show you a fantastic picture of Henry Fonda. And a fantastic picture of Jason Robards. Jason Robards never been better. Yeah, because I've figured out that you'll actually tell me what this whole thing's about, only at the point of dying. Yeah, there's actually a quote by Terence Stamp, because Leone actually called him about the part of harmonica, and he asked Fellini about Leone, and Fellini said he was a great assistant director, and Terence Stamp asked him, what about now? And Fellini said, he's a great assistant director. And Stamp says at that time in 1967-68, Fellini was like a god to me, so that was that. In some ways I'm glad Terence Stamp didn't get the role, because I can't think of anybody playing it apart from Charles Bronson. And as far as Fellini's concerned, who's this book about? So it's actually got the day-by-day shooting and the scenes that they actually shot, which is really quite impressive. And did I say that's embossed? Oh, embossing. So this is available on Amazon in the UK, and I'm assuming it's available wherever you buy your books from. Sorry for the gushing, but it's Once Upon a Time in the West, man. So thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of Once Upon a Time in the West, as long as they're not negative. And hopefully we'll see you again for more silly videos by me. This is Solitaire Ronin, still giddy after receiving this book. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again.